very good evening to everyone present here. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to all of you for joining us today for this panel discussion on civil services organized by the Higher Education Club of the Placement Cell, Sri Ram College of Commerce. I, Priyal Bateja, along with Inakshi Rehani, shall be the moderator for today's session. Recently, on the 21st of April, we celebrated the Civil Services Day. On this day, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, our first Home Minister, envisioned the civil servants of India to be the steel frame of good governance of the country. Till date, joining the Indian Civil Services is considered a dream career among students not only in SRCC but colleges all across India. Concomitant with power, job security, unmatched authority, and job satisfaction, as prestigious as this career is, it's as equally hard to clear the civil services exam, especially with a success rate of less than 1%. Amidst all the fear and anxiety associated with the UPSC preparation journey, it becomes important to take guidance from those who've not only been there but also done that. Hence, we're delighted to have with us four of our distinguished alumni who shall be sharing their valuable insights with us. IPS Nikhil Agarwal, from the graduating batch of 2016, is currently an officer trainee at Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration as an IPS of 2020 batch with the Government of India. He secured AIR 181 in Civil Services Exam 2019. While in Sri Ram College of Commerce, he held positions of responsibility with the Economic Society, Computers and Mathematics Society, and SRCC Students Union. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Priya.
IAS Neural Kamer is from the graduating batch of 2016. He's previously worked at Axis Bank and he's from the IAS batch of 2020. We welcome you, sir.
Next, we have IAS Ananya Singh from the graduating batch of 2018. She is posted in West Bengal. She was All India Rank 51 in UPSC CSC 2019. We welcome you, ma'am. IAS Shubham Agarwal from the graduating batch of 2019 is currently an officer trainee at Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration as an IAS of 2020 batch with the Government of India. While in SRCC, he interned with the American Express and held the position of President of the Finance and Investment Cell. We welcome you, sir. Now we move on to the questions. Starting on a lighter note, what was your reaction when your results were declared?
Okay, I don't know why I am starting. Probably I am from the youngest batch, not the youngest
Yes,
age.
exactly.
And I will tell you the story regarding that. But yeah, the results I think were out on 4th of August, and the medical examination for me happened only on 3rd of August. So I had no clue. Like, yeah, on one day I'll be in the hospital, and next day I'll be probably screaming or crying when the results are out. But yes, screaming and crying was the initial reaction. But the more underlying reaction was being relieved of not having to give the attempt again. That I think is the thing that everyone, each one of us really feel very and very, very worried about. So yeah, initial reaction was that, and then of course, congratulations and best wishes kept pouring in throughout the day and throughout the week, and probably it's continuing still. So yeah, Ananya.
Yeah, I mean, I agree because what happens is that last time, especially because the results were delayed, interviews were delayed due to the COVID situation, so the anxiety levels were heightened even more, and the gap between the result and prelims is very less. So most of us are still preparing for prelims and also being anxious about the results. So like 3rd August night also, I had studied till 4 or something in the morning, and then like when I woke up at 11 o'clock, the results were already out. So predominantly it was a sense of relief, and of course, I mean, the family is really happy, all your friends, and then it's like Shubham said, congratulations and best wishes keep pouring in for like a year. So yeah, relief and happiness.
First of all, a small correction. I am not there in Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy right now. I am in Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel National Police Academy. Coming on to my reaction, I think there was a sense of satisfaction with respect to the hard work which you have put in for 4 years. It materialized into something fruitful. So firstly that, secondly a sense of happiness, and thirdly a sense of responsibility that yes, Now I'll be moving into a responsible job and I need to behave more responsibly. Apart from that, all the congratulatory messages, sense of happiness, that's all.
First of all, I was emotionless on that day. The long period of preparation of 4 years, and on a single day, everything comes to a halt, and you are kind of emotionless. And on that day, you do not feel that kind of emotion which you should feel. Actually, I was not able to talk to my parents more than 3 minutes on that day. So it was emotionless and kind of mox prakti, if you could call it in a single word.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So could you please tell us why and when did you decide to make your career in civil services? And when did you start preparing for the same?
Yeah, for me, it was not a childhood dream or a family dream. So I come from a business family. None from my college, none from my family, I think, has even attended regular college. So going for civil services was completely out of the question. The natural progression from the family was that getting into the business. But I came into college like seeing a lot of opportunities here, a lot of areas where you can get into. And after my first year, I was more of going for a MBA abroad or getting a good corporate placement from the college itself. And that's why I did do American Express internship right after my first year, because I wanted to have that experience of getting into the corporate field. I did do that for 2 months, but I didn't like it very much. I didn't think that my complete lifetime could have been given to a corporate, like for making profits for someone else. And entrepreneurship was not something that I was very comfortable with. So then I started looking for other options. Second year, I just explored. As you said, that I was a president of FIC. So in second year, I had very little mind space to think about what career options I actually wanted to choose. When it was in the third year, like in the very first day of the third year, when I decided that yeah, I'll go for civil services, and I then calculated my age, I realized that right after college I can give an attempt. I do not have to wait for a gap year. So I started my preparation in June 2018 and then gave the prelims in 2019, and yeah, the results kept flowing in.
So quite contrary to Shubham, for me it was kind of a childhood dream because a lot of people in my family are in the government services. My father and brother are in the judicial services. One of my uncles is in the IPS. So always we used to look up to them. So even in school, I was pretty much clear that this is what I want to do. But after coming to SRCC, obviously you gain a lot of exposure to other options. So that made my resolve even clearer that civil services is what at least I'll try for 1-2 years and then I'll see if it doesn't work out because the exam is really really uncertain and very extremely competitive. So that was there. I mean, like you said, even in your opening comments, that job security and more than job security, the job satisfaction. Because I mean, in civil services, right from day one, even during our training, we are given independent charges. So right from day one, you're in a position of great responsibility and you have the power to take independent decisions. So that kind of scope, that kind of diversity, very few other jobs will offer you. And as far as preparation is concerned, I started preparing in May 2018, I think, yeah, and I gave the exam in June 2019. So the full-fledged preparation was that, but of course, before that, you keep reading the newspaper or you keep following. Like I had economics optional, and my honors was also in economics. So I used to keep, going back to the syllabus of the optional and seeing how much I'm covering and so on. But the full-fledged preparation started in May 2018.
So for me, it was not a childhood dream at all. I mean, I had no clue of civil services till the time I came to college. So my dream was to become a chartered accountant. But eventually, in the college, when I interacted with so many people, I mean, in my first year, I remember B.S. Basi sir coming to our college. He was the then Delhi Police Commissioner. So after that, I joined Students' Union and was very much active in college politics. So that college students union activities and college politics opened a new avenues for me. I mean, I got to meet a lot of people who were working in public services, like the union ministers, various bureaucrats. I think that's when I realized that maybe I want to do something like this. And finally, in the sixth semester, I decided that I'll drop my chartered accountancy course and will go for this civil services preparation. And I started somewhere in August 2016 and could not make it in my first attempt. Then I joined a law college and then I dropped it because my resolve got stronger after going to law college that civil services is what I want to do and this is not what I want to go. So that's how it went.
So, what are the things which you did at SRCC you feel helped you sail through this process?
I mean, SRCC, I think in my experience, the culture of civil service preparation is relatively less in our college as compared to the other colleges in Delhi University, where, they have exclusive societies and clubs for the preparation. But having said that, I mean, SRCC is full of very competitive, ambitious, very driven people. So, I mean, when you see your friends getting packages of lakhs, and when you see them, bagging very good courses in post graduation, you feel a little unsettled that I have to also, if I want to do this, I have to clear it as soon as possible. So that kind of thing was there. Apart from that, again, my optional was economics. So, in like fields like developmental economics or international economics, I had good teachers, I had good guides. So my college preparation, I could use that for the optional preparation as well. And I was in the debating society. I was actively associated in it for 2 years. So I mean, I made it a point. Like, I remember when I entered college, I wasn't as well equipped with current affairs knowledge, especially in sectors like international affairs and things like that. So when I joined the debating society, I made it a point to attend more debates related to that, to participate in more debates related to those topics where I'm lacking. So, I mean, not directly, because I would have anyway had to study all the things in much more depth for UPSC, but I kind of gained that analytical bent of mind, which is required in all stages of the exam in the civil services.
For me, I think like more or less it corroborates with what Ananya said, but a few different points would be like one, because you're in such a college, you get a lot of people who have already cleared this exam and are alumni of the college. So you tend to get their phone numbers, their contact details, and you have the opportunity to talk to them and know what the exam is like, and have a one-to-one, perhaps a personal conversation of what should you do, how should you make decisions regarding options and stuff. So just having a set of people, even if you don't have a family background, helps being in such a college. And second, I think for me, which worked especially well in my interview, was being associated with the society. So having a POR in a society in the college really helps, because then you are already handling people who are, if not equal to your mental abilities or faculties, but better than you. Because I always feel that juniors are always smarter than you. So handling those 100, 120 odd juniors for one complete year really like brushes you up and hones your personal development skills. And I think that not only comes handy when you need the kind of perseverance and all that you need while preparing for this exam, but the kind of confidence and the openness that you need to answer to the panel of the interview, who are like people who have 30, 35 years of career plus. So I think that the kind of interactions we have in college with all kinds of people really does help us in that.
Yeah, and to add to that, actually, that reminds me that because I had mentioned in my DAF, the detailed application form, about the debating society and holding a position of responsibility there, I was in the actual interview, I was actually asked a lot of questions about the kind of debates you attended. And those are the kind of questions that you can swing in your favor because you've actually done it. So you don't even need to prepare a lot. And that really shifts the interview in your favor, because the topic that I told, then there were 3 more follow-up questions on that. So yeah, I agree with Shubham that it helps in the interview.
Yes, I think Ananya and Shubham has already covered whatever I had to say. Just to add on to it, I think on the behavioral part, being part of various societies, I developed a sense of perseverance, the qualities of perseverance. And this is what helped me the most during my preparation, because despite seeing 2 failures in the civil service examination, I was able to continue. And I think that was a quality which I learned in my college, during my college days only. And apart from that, the guidance of our seniors. I remember 2016 batch officer Harsh sir, he helped me continuously during my preparation with respect to what are the mistakes I'm committing, how should I improve, or what are the areas which I should focus on, which would not have been available to me had I not got in touch with him. So this was the thing at SRC which helped me a lot, apart from what Shubham and Anya has already mentioned.
Those were great experiences. So, Nurul sir, back to you. Would you like to share with us why and when did you decide to make your career in civil services, and when did you start preparing for the same?
So I'll start my journey from the beginning. So I come from Bihar, and while in primary school, I only knew that only 2 professions existed if you study hard. One was teacher and other was doctor. I decided to become a doctor. Then when I was in 10th, then I learned that there is some kind of CA, and I was not aware of what that means. But one of my friends' brother was CA. That's why I decided that I should study commerce and will become a CA. Then I joined SRCC, and then I had some bad experiences of career opportunities of CA with some of my friends and seniors. Then I decided that I should go for civil services in the last year. So Nikhil is my mate, so we were in the hostel. 2-3 friends were. We decided that we should study for civil services, but my age was, I was not eligible that year. That's why I decided to go for placement, and I went there. So I started in 2017, if I'm not wrong. Then I gave 2018 attempt. I was unable to clear the prelims, and this time I was able to. And for the SRCC help, I think there are 2-3 structural benefits which we got. First is I think syllabus is very short for BCom honors. You can study in BCom honors. I don't know about the economics, but BCom honors syllabus is few, and you can cover them up in maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, and you have lots of time. If you want to study for other things, you have lots of time. So I used to focus on the current affairs part, the magazines and newspapers. All the for the last year, I think we used to study for the last week only. Other than that, we have time to explore, and we have good friend circle. Many of us wanted to become civil servants, so we have a kind of legacy in that sense. There were few seniors who joined services, and there were friends who wanted to join, and we were studying together. So these all, I think, this entire ecosystem was favorable for us to become civil servant in SRC.
So those were great insights, sir. Moving on to the next question. Could you please tell us what was your preparation strategy during various stages of the exam, that is prelims, mains, and interview?
So the first thing which I decided is to keep my sources limited for both the stages, prelims and mains. And I focused on covering the basic books, I think, which everybody knows the list of books. And I've focused on revising them again and again. With respect to the general studies part, so I had an integrated strategy wherein whenever I tried to cover a particular chapter, I thought what could be the questions from this particular chapter which could be asked in prelims, and the questions which could be asked in main, so that I don't have to read that chapter again for mains perspective. At one go, I could study it from both the perspective, from mains and pre. So that helped me a lot in covering GS together, and that in a very short time. With respect to optional subjects, since I had done it during my college days also, I had commerce as an optional. So I took material from rankers classes, and basically restricted myself to that material only. Solved a lot of previous year question papers, because in the mains examination, you'll find a lot of questions getting repeated every time. So I tried to focus on how good can I answer, because ultimately the question is going to be same or a little different. Ultimately, you are going to get marks on what you write, not for the question. So I tried to improve the quality of my answers. So restricted the sources, revised again and again. For the mains, did a lot of answer writing practice. For prelims, a lot of question paper practice, and again revision. That was the simple strategy which I followed.
I'll just add a bit regarding the interview. I think Nikhil has summed it up for prelims and mains pretty well. So if prelims and mains is, for me, I think I'll speak for everyone here. Like, if not, please correct me. 2 or 3 main things. One, having limited resources and sticking only to them. Don't join a lot of Telegram groups and WhatsApp groups, and just start reading whatever news sources being recommended, new PDFs that have been floated into that. It'll just eat away your time. Second, always remember that reading one book 10 times is much better than reading 10 books one time each. To have anything get actually stored in your mind, you have to like revise them again and again. So stick to limited resources and revise them multiple times. And third, make a very deliberate and very exaggerated timetable and just stick to it. Make timetables of 6 months, make monthly timetables, make weekly timetables, make daily timetables. And doing that on an online platform, probably on an Excel or anything of that sort, actually helps, because then you can edit and revisit the timetable as many times as you want, and not only waste your time in making and remaking the timetable. Coming to the interview, I think what worked for me pretty well was one was definitely the age factor and the having a good background in like class 12 in class and in college, like good marks and stuff. That I think all SRIs will have in common. But what worked was one, you have to have that confidence, because what they are probably looking at is an officer who cannot be buckled under pressure. So every answer that you'll give, they'll try to contradict it. They'll try to give opposite viewpoints. And at that point in time, on one hand, you have to respect for their experience and their knowledge. But then again, you will have to realize that you have applied your mind before answering the question, and just stick to that answer. So do take in whatever suggestion they have, but also stick to answer that you are giving, and don't be shy of giving so-called controversial answers. Because I remember that one question was demonetization is completely failed. Please elaborate. So it like we gave our interviews, I think in 2020, early 2020, and by that time it was common knowledge that yeah, the major purposes of the policy have failed. So don't be shy in speaking your mind that yes, it has failed in the stated policies, but then at the same point in time, do bring out whatever the little nuances that the policy was able to achieve. So many a times I see that because these suggestions floating around that because you're going in a government job, you can't criticize the government. That's not a thing. It's just that they're looking for you are a young blood. You need to have application of mind, and speaking truth to power is very important. One final thing that works in interview is constitutionalism and upholding the rule of law. If you are actually committed to this, like you do not only not show, but you are actually not communal in your remarks or casteist in your remarks or sexist in your remarks, it actually shows, because those people have interacted with thousands and thousands of people in their careers. So don't just try to put a facade in front of you, but try to live your lives in those patterns, not having these ill wills. And I think that will help in the interview in scoring good marks. Yeah.
Again, put it into picture. Prelims is about previous year questions and mock tests. I think that, I mean, if you don't do mock tests like 2 months before prelims, it's kind of tough. So it is mostly about practice. Mains is about answer writing and time management. And as far as interview is concerned, it's about DAF, your optional. If your optional is dynamic, then more focus on the optional, and current affairs. And current affairs is different for the other stages and interview, because in an interview you need to have an opinion. In mains, you generally what you do is you write many aspects of the issue, you write the pros and cons, and you write a solution. You don't try to bring your personal bias into your answer. But in the interview, they will expressly ask you about your opinion about things, not about what the Supreme Court has said or what a committee has said or what the Election Commission has said, but what you think about that issue. And another thing is, like Shubham said, you need to be really confident, but you set the tone for your interview. So if you are a little bit overconfident or if you are cocky, then you will make the interview board confrontational, which is never in your interest. So you have to be polite and you have to be firm, and you need to bring a balance between both the things. I think rest of the things have been covered.
So for prelims, I finished current affairs during weekdays. Whatever time I would get after the job, I would just finish current affairs. Even the weekly current affairs, though Sunday and Saturday current affairs, I would not study on the weekend. I would finish them in the weekdays, whether in the morning or in the evening. Then on the weekends, I would reserve those days especially for the static portion, all the books which are prescribed. First of all, I would cover the NCRT, then I would move to the specific reference book for the same. And only 2 books I revised many times, as Nikhil and Shubham was stressing on the importance of repeating one book instead of focusing on many books. So what I have done, I just one Lakshmikant and one Spectrum. I mean, modern history and the polity. These only books I have repeated many times. Other than that, I studied just on one or twice. And I would say for current affairs, I think we have to diversify our sources. For these static portions, just limit yourself to. I limited myself to 1 or 2 sources and just revise them thoroughly. But for this dynamic portions, I have quite diverse sources. So I had two sources. I never studied newspaper. I covered from 2-3 websites. 3 daily websites. Then I used to study from one monthly magazine and then the yearly magazine. So I diversified very much for the static portion. I think that worked for me since I was not good at this static portion. I was not good at this, since I do not have that much time. So that's why I focused mainly on current affairs. For mains, I think answer writing is very important. So I made this mistake till the results for the prelims was declared. I have not written even a single answer, and I have not joined since I was working full time and in Mumbai, and there were no much good coachings available there. So I was not able to join any coaching institutes. I think that cost me, I think, at least 50 marks. So difference between you who will be in the list and those who will not be in the list will be mainly the optional subject. Since for all the general studies, the tendency is that there will not be much difference, maybe 5 or 10 marks difference for everybody. I mean, those who are in the top 5,000, there will be 5 or 10 marks difference. But the optional makes a lot of difference. So there may be someone who is getting maybe 200 in the optional, and there may be someone who is getting 300. And 100 marks creates maybe 2,000, maybe 10,000 difference in the rank. The optional, I would say, focus thoroughly, and I think if you do not have any reason to to not cover your to not opt for your graduation subject, you should opt for graduation subject. Since especially for the SRIs who are good at academics and who have thoroughly studied their graduation subjects, I would strongly advise for going for graduation subject as your optional subject. So I covered my all optional and answer writing within 2 months. So if you are just out of college, I think you need only 1 or 2 months to revise all those graduation subjects if you are going for that. If you have something that disturbs you in the syllabus, then only you can opt out from your graduation subject and opt for another subject for optional thing. I think for interview, Shubham and Ananya have described better. And for me, I have lots of stage fear. So I was fearing the board, but after giving 2-3 marks, it was better. I think for all the things, mock is the key. And for prelims, I think even if you can study 3 years, 4 years wholly, if you not do this mock test, it will not be good.
So since Nurul talked about answer writing, so it's very true that we don't get time to practice answer till the time of our prelims examination. So there was a simple strategy which I followed, and I think which helped me. So whenever every day I was reading the newspaper, so every day there are around 3 to 4 editorials. So every day I used to pick up one editorial, make a question out of that, and after reading that editorial twice, I used to write that answer. I mean answer out of that editorial without seeing that editorial. That ways I was benefiting in 3 ways. Firstly, my answer writing improved on daily basis. Secondly, I had a repository of current affairs at the end of this entire 1 year. Thirdly, I had key points ready in my mind all the time with respect to a particular issue. And those quick handwritten notes helped me revise every week. I mean the entire issue. Those used to be around 4 or 5 pages, but at the end of the week, you have all those issues in mind along with the key points. So this was what helped me. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you.
So if I would add on this, so for answer writing, I have done from that insights. They put one question each day.
Yeah,
I would just for after prelims, I would just note one answer, one question, and would do that. For I think I need to elaborate on why I have not chosen to read newspaper. Instead, I focus on the online current affairs. So there are two main issues which I realized. First is while you, especially when you start preparing, you do not know which editorials and which news to skip and which news to focus on. So if you'll focus on these online sources, they have experts sitting there. They decide for you which news is important for UPSC and which news is not. For example, Insights, and there are many websites. I'm not talking about a single website. I followed Insights. So they pick editorials and news stories from 3-4 different newspapers. If you would go through those those 3 newspapers, it would take maybe 3 hours to cover those, but they give you consolidated in one place that you can read in 1 hour. So this decision of which news to leave and which editorials is important for UPSC and which not is taken care of by online sources. Second, I found that in newspaper many times you find only news. Whatever is there, they just expand. They do not express their opinion on that and what went behind that and what was before that. If I take one simple example, suppose this epidemic act was invoked. So the newspaper only will state that this act was invoked to contain the spread of the disease, but it will not explain you when this act was enacted and what went behind that, what was the controversy at that time, how that act can be replaced or what are better options available abroad and how can we rectify that, what are controversies around that. So these all entire ecosystem of debate you will not find in newspaper. But if you prefer online sources, they do their own, they have their own editorial thing. I think they explain these all things. You do not have to just search, just read newspaper and take those epidemic act, then search in the internet. So they do it for you. So I think that benefited me a lot.
So coaching or self-study, I think coaching again has to be distributed into two aspects. One for general studies and another for the optional subject. For me, as well as Nikhil, it was commerce and accountancy. And everyone who's doing BCom honors and looking for commerce and accountancy as the optional, I would, like, for me, it worked out. So I would recommend, on my personal bias involved here, is like go for coaching at Rankers. It's, I think, a 4 or 5 month thing for both the papers. Do go for coaching. One additional benefit that you get to have, other than the materials and all the explanations that sir gives, is that you write answers on a very regular basis. So for me, again, it was like I didn't have any time to write GS answers before the prelims results came out, but I did have answer writing practice because I was writing my optional answers. And given the answer writing that has been followed by a lot of toppers in the previous years, nowadays is like we need to have very infographic oriented and diagram oriented answers and just not margin to margin answers. So given the fact that in commerce and accountancy also we were writing answers in the very same fashion, so that actually helped me incorporating the same strategy in the GS answer writing as well. So for GS, if you have 1 year extra at your hand, like you have 2 years in all to give your attempt, then probably the first year you can go for a GS coaching, and if finance is not an issue. But overall, I think for GS, self-study, good use of the internet can suffice. But for the optional, especially for the commerce and accountancy, I will recommend go for coaching. That just because the orientation in BCom honors and commerce and accountancy optional is not entirely the same. Some subjects might be overlapping, but the orientation of giving the answers and managing time is completely different. So I would recommend go for Rankers in optional, but not for G.
Like you said, orientation, the same thing is true for economics also, because in college you are focused more on the numerical part of economics, more focused on microeconomics, and even the question papers are more numerical based. In UPSC preparation, it is more related to macro, although they touch all aspects, but it's more related to macroeconomics. It's more descriptive, and the way you write your answers is very different from college. So that readjustment you need to make. But I think as far as coaching is concerned, different people have different experiences. I personally did take coaching for both GS and optional. And I mean, GS is a really wide kind of syllabus. So you can always decide. You don't need, nobody needs coaching for, say, history or art and culture, where you really have to mug up things. There's nothing more to it. But for things that have probably lesser sources, like say ethics, which are relatively new, say security, or some narrow topics that are there in mains, some kind of guidance does help. And what coaching does, it streamlines the syllabus for you. It makes things a little easier, but also it eats up a lot of your time, because I used to go at 11, I used to come back at 5. So many hours are gone, and then you're so tired, you have lesser time also. And I mean, lakhs and lakhs of people are going for coaching. So it is, at the end of the day, self-study that does help you. Coaching can ease the entire process for you. But for GS, like Shubham said, it is more and more of self-study. And apart from that, coaching is more instrumental in mock tests, in practicing, in answer writing, giving you feedback on those answers. Although you have to be very careful in taking that feedback, because sometimes it's not entirely correct also. So you have to be intelligent in how you manage time and how you write answers and how you take feedback, and all in that entire process for interview, mock interviews. Coaching is an essential kind of a thing, but for GS mostly you have to study on your own.
I had a slightly different experience with respect to optional coaching. So I joined Rankers classes. However, the pace of classes I found there was very slow. So I left the coaching within 15 or 20 days. And I think it was primarily the YouTube videos which helped me sail through this examination. So I used to Google or search on YouTube the videos, very small 2-3 minute videos with respect to every topic which is given in the optional paper, commerce optional paper 2 topics. And those were my sources of learning with respect to options. So I did not go primarily for any coaching in an organized fashion. And it was only through these YouTube videos that I could clear this examination. So I think it is also possible by means of self-study if you use internet in a intelligent manner. So that's what I would like to add.
Totally different experience. I have never had a coaching. I think I need to elaborate on why the importance of coaching is going down these days. So coaching would do two things for the students in say maybe 10 years before this. So first was the syllabus of UPSC was not decoded by general public. So you have a broad topic, Indian national movement. You do not know what would be under the Indian national movement. and you do not have a consolidated book for that, since for example, if there is Indian national movement, you do not have a single book. The coachings have just decoded those things, and they used to tell their students to refer those books and those chapters from those books. But I think by the time the syllabus has been standardized and we have standard books for everything, this syllabus quagmire have been solved by the internet, and as well as the standardization of syllabus, as well as the publishing houses. They specifically they publish book for UPSCs like this Lakshmikant. Before that, if suppose Constitution accept Lakshmikant and one or two, three books, it would be quagmire. You need to go through hundreds of books and pull out the syllabus from those pull out the topics from those books, and you need to study. But Lakshmikant have made that process easier. Similarly, there are many books available. So I think this syllabus quagmire have been solved by the publishing house as well as the internet. You get lots of, in fact, more than whatever you require, you'll get online. Second, I think is timetable. I think that utility still exists. So if you are so much focused that you can make your timetable and utilize that timetable to study, then I think there is no utility of coaching. But if you are not self-disciplined, if you are like you are making your timetable and you are not able to follow it, I think then you need to go for coaching, since they kind of make your timetable structured in the sense that today you have some classes and you need to revise before you go for next classes and all. So for optional, I think Shubham had a different experience. I would say the notes, the second paper notes from this ranker classes enough. I utilize only notes from the ranker classes and I sail through. And for paper one, the practical paper you need to practice a lot, since that fetches good marks. And so answer writing is key. If I think coaching should exist. If I would not be wrong, for maybe 10 years down the line, coaching would exist only for the mock test, for prelims, mains, and interview, and nothing more they can exist. This is my personal perspective. Perspective can differ from other person.
So the very fact that Nikhil, me and Nurul had the same option and probably did use the same coaching, or if not the material, but completely different strategy, does bring out the point that there's no correct strategy while likely to crack this exam. The correctness of the strategy is just dependent on the basis of whether you're successful or not. If you're successful, even the shittiest of the strategies will become a correct strategy. And if you're not, then probably the best of the strategies is also not a good strategy. So it all depends. Like in this situation, only the ends define the means, and means by themselves have no meaning. Yeah, Nikhil, go on, please.
Yeah, just to add on, I think for those people who are planning to take a commerce and accounting as optional, please refer to Shubham's notes of paper 2. They are very well written. So you can use that as a template to make your own notes. Ultimately, everybody should go for their own handwritten notes, but you can use them as a template. Secondly, specifically with respect to optional, I think if you are able to solve past 5 to 7 year question papers, you will score very well in the examination, because ultimately it is the same questions which are getting repeated. The UPSC is not even changing the figures or the amounts which are written in the question in the subsequent years. So it is almost the same. So please focus on previous year question papers as well. These are the 2 things I want to know.
Okay, so thank you for your insights on that. Moving on to the next question. Could you please share how did you deal with your failures and what motivated you to keep pushing on?
I remember it was 10th of January 2018. 10th of January 2018 when the results of mains examination came out for my first attempt, and I did not make it. And after that, I decided that I'll leave my law college and focus solely on my civil services preparation. So I started preparing for my next attempt. 14th of July 2018, the results of prelims came and I did not qualify. Now I was in a totally confused situation because I had left my law college, I did not qualify the prelims examination, and I had no job opportunity in my hand. I think that was the lowest point which I have ever hit in my life. But how did I cope up with it? I tried to find a mentor who is ready to support you, who is ready to understand your problems. So earlier I went for a big coaching, but could not find a mentor there. This is when I decided I'll go for a very small coaching. So I could find a person, Amit sir, who was probably 4 or 5 years elder to me, but he was able to understand me, and I kept on progressing on daily basis under his guidance. Secondly, with respect to the emotional part, I used to speak to my brother on a regular basis, and he motivated me that yes, you can do it, yes, you can do it. And these small things boosted my confidence, and eventually I was able to sail through. So you need to have a good supporters, or what should I say, people who are there, who are ready to be there for you in whatever manner you want them. So for both the academic and the emotional part, I had somebody who was there to support me. So this is how I coped with my failures.
Regarding this exam, if any failure I can talk about, I think is not scoring well in the mock exams. And I remember giving one interview in the forum IAS, and they said, like, if you would sum up your complete journey in one line, what will it be? So I remember telling them that on some days you'll feel that you're getting rank 1, and some days you will think that it was a bad decision to even prepare for this exam. So it's just like that. It's a roller coaster ride while you're preparing. Some days you'll hit the highest peaks, and sometimes you'll be down in the trenches. But again, we all live for the next better day, and that has to be kept in mind. It's easier said than done, I do realize, but there is no other option, perhaps. So just keep it in mind. Keep in mind that, yeah, it is a roller coaster ride. No one sails it through without having self-doubt or without questioning their decision and everything. And there will be a lot of peer pressure. Do take that in your stride, but do not let those things hamper your conscience, your decision making, whatever you decided. And just keep your friends and family close, and yeah, live a jolly life and a safe life as of now.
So, how much importance do mock examinations and interviews have? And kindly share your details about your mock interviews. And
I'll go first because I have the smallest answer. I didn't give any mock interviews. So according to my psyche, or I don't know what, I just thought that interviews are something which has to be like very natural, should not look prepared, should not feel prepared. I know it was only me who, like, I'm not speaking this for everyone because I might be in a very small minority of people who don't give any mock interviews. But I just decided, it was conscious decision not to give any mock interviews, and I realized that it actually helped me. Whatever answers I was giving to the main panel in the UPSC building were very natural and very free-flowing answers. I did not think of my body posture. I did not think whether I was moving my hand, looking here, smiling too much or not. I just thought that those kind of applications to your personality, which the mock interviews give, do actually hamper you more rather than helping you out. But again, it could be only for me. I felt confident about giving interviews, so that's why I didn't go for any mock interviews. So yeah, I have actually no experience of mock interviews. Yeah, so prelims, I think one of the major aspects of clearing prelims is giving mock test papers. You just cannot clear prelims without having the same kind of strategy that I had in my interviews of not giving any mock. So in prelims, one mistake that probably every aspirant, and I also started doing that in the very beginning, was focusing on the score that I was scoring. So you just don't have to look into those because the questions will be completely different. UPSC is not that fully that it will just copy paste questions from the books that we are studying from. So those will be analytical type questions. The thing that you have to focus is the kind of time that you're giving those 2 hours into. So whether you're able to attempt the number of questions that you want to, whether you're having multiple revisions of the questions, like 2 or 3 or 4 attempts, as many as you want within those 2 hours, whether you're getting your accuracy right, how is your guesswork going, and in which subjects you need to practice and revise more. Do not focus on the marks that you're getting in mock papers. Which mock paper? I think there's a lot of literature on that on the internet. You can choose whatever suits best for you. But don't focus on the marks, but rather how you're spending those 2 hours and yeah, the other things. Ananya?
Yeah, I agree. Prelims, mock interviews non-negotiable, mock tests are non-negotiable for prelims. But the thing is that it's very important to analyze the result of the mock test, in the sense that whether your strategy of guessing has worked or not, how many questions do you really want to attempt out of 100? Because I mean, it's impossible to get 80 sure shot questions in the exam. You won't get it. You'll probably get 30-40 questions that you're sure of, and all the other questions you have to do guesswork. So it's important to realize and analyze, because everybody has a different kind of success rate in terms of the questions they attempt and how many they get correct. So it's important to get that right. In mains, again, mocks are important for answer writing, time management, feedback. I remember the first question paper that I wrote for mains. The mock paper that I wrote, I could only do like 14 questions after taking half an hour extra. It was completely disastrous. And then I started practicing more, and that was after the prelims result. So we have like 2-3 months, I think 2 months or something, and that's when I started practicing. But fortunately, it turned around. So answer writing is very important, and personally, I think writing one answer in say 5 or 7 minutes is much easier than writing an entire paper. So giving entire papers is very important. And an interview, different from Shubham, I gave some 4 or 5 mocks, I think, and it helped me because based on your DAF, you kind of understand that what are the most probable questions that you might get asked. Few of them do get repeated in the final interview. And apart from that, I mean, you have to choose the kind of advice you want to take on. But personalized, like Ravindran sir gives a personalized kind of interaction before the main interview. Some of those things do help. So I think you can go for it. Most mock interviews are free anyway because they want to use your photograph and your name after that. So mock interviews are a good idea.
With respect to the prelims examination, I think mocks are a must. But with respect to mains, I did not go for too many mocks. I think for all the 7 papers, in total, I wrote only 2 tests. So my daily strategy of practicing answers from the newspaper helped me a lot, excelling in my GS examinations. One thing which people should focus on is the essay paper, which is neglected the most. So everybody should practice at least 1 or 2 essay before going for the final examination, because if you go like this, it becomes a little tough to write directly in the examination. Rest, I think Ananya and Shubham has covered well, so I don't have much to add.
For prelims, I think diversification of your sources is important. You should not just limit yourself to one coaching institute marks. You should diversify yourself. You can get many marks, I think more than enough marks are online. And for mains, I think these 2 diversification of marks is important. You should write, and there should be at least 2 or 3 persons who can comment on your question. So even if you are not giving a formal mock test to a coaching institute, you should have some 2 or 3 friends who can just comment on your mains answer writing. It should not be only one person commenting on your answer. So I think this should be important. And and one more thing for men, you should write at least 2-3 full mock tests. I mean 20 questionnaire. So if you'll just write 1 or 2 in one sitting and will wait for the main examination to attempt the full answer, I think you may not be able to complete it. And experiences shows that if you are just leaving even a one answer, you are probably out of the list. So attempting each and every question is important. That's why writing full length mock, even if you are sitting at your home by keeping a time, it's important. Most important thing is listen to everybody's advice, but just based on that, you should not decide for after coming out of each mock interview, you should not decide you are listening to them. Just give 2-3 mocks, and based on that, you can decide what you have to do and what you have to ignore. And that's it.
Okay. That was really helpful. Going ahead, could you please share some future advice for aspirants?
$1 million question. I think all these count as advice. We can't give you one mantra, I think, which will solve all the problems. This paper does demand the perseverance, the discipline, but at the same point in time, you need to enjoy itself. And while taking college, do enjoy college, do get hold of as many experiences as you can. Join society, just don't be a bookworm and just sit in the library. Do that as well, but do other things as well. And you have to take account for everything and just not completely focus on one thing, because then if the results don't come out, then we tend to get drained in a lot of misery. So there's no pill which will help you sort through this, and there's no one mantra, but yeah, just keep on incorporating and bettering yourselves and whatever good advice wherever you can.
Oh, I'm just saying that it's important, at least for me, I tried to keep myself as detached as possible from all these, statistics of how many people qualify in the exam. After prelims, so many people are, they don't qualify and so on. In the coaching also, they'll try to overwhelm you with all these things that out of 200 people sitting here, maybe only one will qualify and all of that. I mean, reality checks are important, but at the end of the day, I try to focus on my daily targets, weekly targets, on my syllabus, and not think too much about backup option, because I mean, a fallback option is necessary, but if you're just out of college, fresh out of college, you rarely have a backup option. And I mean, a lot of credit goes to people who clear the exam while working. But if you are not in that position, don't think too much about these things. Give your all to it. But like Shubham said, don't make the exam your life, because that it's really not worth compromising your mental and physical health for that.
Just keep telling yourself every day and every night that out of those 800, you only need one seat. So let there be 10 lakh aspirants, and let there be like only 3,000, 4,000 going for the interview. You need only one seat.
I think you should be having an option, plan B. If not you, some of your mentor who is a guide or whatever you can call them, that person should be thinking of you for plan B. And second, if you are planning for UPSC, just prepare your mind for giving at least 3 or 4 attempts. It should not be like that you are giving just 1 or 2 attempt and you are leaving that. I should prepare yourself for at least 2 or 3 attempts, and that's it.
So I would like to add a few things. So like the way Ananya said, everybody is different. So I used to tell myself that हर एक इंसान अलग है, जैसे पांचों उंगलियां different है, likewise everybody is different. So all 4 of us are from the same college. However, Shubham is qualified in the very first attempt right out of his college, and I took 3 attempts, and I think Nurul also took 3 attempts to qualify. So please do not compare yourself with anybody else. You are a different individual. Respect your individuality. Always try to learn from your mistakes and failures. Committing a mistake is not a problem. However, repeating the same is a problem. So one should always try to learn from their mistakes and failure and improve upon those. Thirdly, if possible, try to have a company of good set of people who always motivate you, cheer you up, and force you to move forward in a positive and progressive manner. So that's what I wanted to add.
I'll just differ on one point what Nurul said. I just think that it'll be important for aspirants, so that's why I'm just adding and pitching in. Like Nurul said that you just prepare yourself for 3 or 4 attempts. Again, as Nikhil said, it's completely an individual decision. So for me, I think I'm saying this for the benefit of the hindsight, but for me, I was hell bent on not giving more than 2 attempts because I thought that this is the prime of the time of the life, and I have just too high an opportunity cost to give 3 or 4 or 5 years for this. So again, it's completely individualistic, and you can see a lot of people who are doing it in 6, 7 attempts and in half, and people doing it with half year of experience, half year of preparation as well. So it completely depends on what other opportunities you have and what plan B options you have.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to the last question. Please share your experience during the training period post clearing the civil services examination.
Since I'm in the police training, I think it is a totally different experience for me. So before getting into the service, I had a sedentary sort of lifestyle because during the entire preparation we are just busy studying, eating, and sleeping. So these were the 3 things, at least for me. So after getting into training, I think I'm developing myself both on the physical as well as the intellectual aspect. We are having heavy indoors and outdoors, learning a lot of games. For example, I'm learning swimming, lawn tennis, table tennis, badminton, horse riding, shooting, rock climbing. So this way we are getting physically fit, at the same time learning how the policies with respect to policing are made, how they are implemented on ground by methods of simulation, role play, multiple attachment with state governments, district authorities, having sessions with international speakers or the people who are in authority who have already worked for a lot of years. So this way we are developing ourselves on multiple fronts. So more or less, this has been the experience in the last 3 months.
So firstly, the academy is really, really beautiful. Mussoorie is a very, very good town. You have, like, it's away from the hustle and bustle of Delhi. And then after spending like 1.5 years, probably locked up in your room, not meeting a lot of people, preparing, it's a very good respite to go there and meet so many people from so many diverse backgrounds, whether the age groups are concerned or the educational backgrounds are concerned. So you have a lot of people with a lot of different opinions to mix up with. Without mobile signal for 7 days, it's like a completely different experience. Apart from that, you get to closely interact with a lot of seniors, the senior most civil servants of the country, and learn from their experiences. But more than the, I mean, academically, the exam itself is such a draining process that here you get to focus more on team building activities, on building a kind of camaraderie with your batchmates from different services. So in that way, it's a very beautiful experience.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights. The chat box is now enabled for the attendees to ask their queries.
Most of the questions are about the optional. I went to Vajiram for optional, and Vibhas Jha sir was there, and that really helped me because the syllabus is pretty wide, and there are some things that are not covered in the graduation syllabus. Apart from that, in the coaching, there were many people who were not actually from economics background. So what it does, it consolidates the syllabus. I used to refer notes repeated a number of times, and more than that, you don't need to study a lot of books, because if you don't go for coaching, especially for optional, so you have too many sources to be covered if you don't go for one consolidated set of notes. And these notes you can get, like, there's Bliss optional coaching also. I personally preferred Vajiram more, and same for the test series also. I went for Vajiram. I actually tried to do this preparation during college. I had joined Bliss Point coaching, but I couldn't carry on because I think, unlike BCom, economics honors does require some more time in college as well. So I couldn't really do that. But having said that, previous year questions in optional is very important, because unlike GS, questions do get repeated. If not in the exact fashion, you get a lot of idea about what areas are important. And apart from the notes, the books that you have to refer to, I'll just see the things that were asked once. Yeah, MFM, your college readings would do. For Indian economy, you have to focus much more on the economic survey of not only this year but previous years, because you get a lot of data that you can use not only in your optional but also in your GS. Um, So mainly that, the notes, the previous year questions, and you need to relate both the optional papers. Like paper 2 is about Indian economy and paper 1 is about the general economics. So as much as you can relate the Indian economy models in your general economics by giving India specific examples, and in the second paper, if you can go back to the static part and relate it, then that would be beneficial.
So the next question that I would like to ask, since UPSC preparation can stretch beyond 1 year, is it wiser to have a job to counterbalance to the pressure? And also, will the work experience help in the interview process?
There's no correct answer to this. It all depends on where you are at this point in time in your life, what age, what options you have in hand. Helping it in the interview, I don't think so much. It might lead your interview in a completely different direction than having a job and not having a job. Of course, if you have a work experience of 1 or 2 years, definitely some questions will be asked: what you were doing there, how was your experience, what did you learn there, which can be applied in administrative jobs like the IAS or the IPS. So it wouldn't be beneficial or non-beneficial as such, but of course your interview orientation will change. And then again, there's a complete dichotomy. One, you have a job and then you have less time to prepare on a daily basis, but have a better plan B option, a safer side plan B option. And second, not having a job, giving more time to the preparation, but again, if you don't clear it, then landing up where. So both have their own, it's a complete trade-off, and whatever suits you, whatever you find comfortable, you should go for that. But there is no inherent benefit of having a job experience going for the interview. I don't think so.
Shubham, so there is a question for you. How did you clear without a gap year?
Oh, how did I clear without a gap year? I just realized that I did not need a gap year because being a Delhi, I started my schooling at 4 plus, unlike the 3 plus rule all over India. So I was already 21 when I was in third year. So I turned 21 in January. So yeah, without a gap year, I just realized that I did not need to have a gap year. One, second, after realizing that, I started my preparation right in the third year. I just used to sit in the library and devote my entire day for the preparation. And then, yeah, in May, I think college exams got over and 2nd of June was our prelims. So I did give 15 days or 10 days time for those final 6 semester exams, which really was a toll because the prelims were right around the corner within a month. But yeah, it worked out well.
Thank you for telling us that, sir.
So few people have a question like, what is the best backup they can have?
I think there is nothing called as a best backup. So it depends on your present situation. As Shubham said, you need to figure out your contextual factors. Do you have enough time? What is your age? What are your future plans? And how much time you can devote for it? If you think you can't devote much for it, then it's better to do it along with a job, like Nurul did. And it gives you a sense of security also, because I remember before the results, I was in a turmoil that if I don't clear the examination this time, what will I do? So having a good backup is a good thing. And being from the commerce background, I think there are multiple jobs which you can offer. Maybe you can take a placement from the college. Otherwise, you can go for the RBI examination. You can go for the SEBI examination, or maybe go for a master's along with your preparation. So that ways you have something which is happening along with your preparation. So even if you don't make it in your first or second attempt, it is not a gap year or a void which is there on your DAF or your curriculum vitae. So I think it's better to have some sort of backup, but ultimately it's a personal choice depending on your contextual factors. Yeah.
And also, I see a lot of people being way too much worried about not clearing their exam in 2 or 3 attempts and not doing anything else during those times. So then they're worried about if they quit UPSC and if they're going for any other job, the thing which will be reflected in their CV will be the gap years. So don't be too worried about it. It's just that you made a decision, you gave your heart and soul into it, and it just didn't click. So life is not lost in those 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I'm saying that in the first year of your preparation, don't think too much about a backup option, because you need to, I mean, the exam deserves, I think, full-fledged. Of course, everybody is in a different circumstance, and few of us might have to take up a job, so that is different. But other than that, I think, when I also started the preparation, I was very worried about having a backup option, and I asked my brother. So my brother told me that don't have such a strong fallback option that you actually fall back. So don't be too worried about backup option, at least in the beginning of your preparation.
That was really encouraging. Moving on to the next question that we have. It is how to cover current affairs on a daily basis, and is preparing notes for current affairs necessary, or can one go for online compilations?
So I'll start for that. I think if for me personally, if the coaching people are already making notes for you, you don't need to do it yourself. I didn't make notes. The monthly compilations are pretty good and comprehensive. But what you can do is, along with reading the newspaper, you can refer to one website for the daily current affairs, because they collect it from a lot of sources which you can't cover. They collect it from PIB and from different newspapers. So there might be some small fact that you can miss and that might appear in the exam. So I used to take note of those facts which I thought wouldn't come in the monthly compilation, weren't as important, but might get asked in the exam. So my notes were limited to just that for current affairs.
So don't go and make notes of current affairs out of newspapers. That just consumes 2 or 3 hours of your daily time. It's not of any use. Just depend on the people at coaching centers preparing monthly compilations. But do read the newspaper. I know that Nurul did not, but I would suggest do read the newspaper, because it's not just important for the examination perspective, but I think to be a good administrator, you need to be well aware of the surroundings around you. And just reading a newspaper on a daily basis, I think it's just a good habit that everyone can cultivate.
And initially it takes time, but gradually when you get well versed with the syllabus, you can do it in 1 hour easily.
Thank you so much. Moving on to the last question. A few people want to know, like, what are the sacrifices that you had to make in?
The only thing I sacrificed was my law. I mean, I had to drop out of the law college. That's it. Nothing else. And that's where the point of Ananya gets proved, that in the initial years, do not think too much about the backup. So in my first attempt, I tried to think too much of a backup and wasted around 1.5 or 2 months between prelims and mains examination in the law college. And that's why I could not clear the mains examination. So
for me, there were no sacrifices as such, just basic things like missing family functions and celebrations and stuff like that. But I don't count those as sacrifices as such, because it's just the nature of the exam that it requires such amount of time. It is just a normal daily thing that will have to clock a particular number of hours on a daily basis. And if something out of the schedule comes in, you'll have to just miss it. It's not a sacrifice as such, but yeah, it's just a way of life at that point in time while preparing.
Those were great insights. Moving on to the last question for you, Nurul sir. There are people asking, how did you manage your preparation with the job? Could you give an insight of your schedule?
So for me, I think I just described in the for the current affairs, I would cover all the current affairs in the weekdays along with my job. While in the morning maybe and in the evening. So in the morning I used to study the static portion, and in the evening after coming back from office, or mainly in the office only after my work got over by 6 or 7 or 8. After that I used to stay in the office and would cover the current affairs of that day. Then only I would return back to my house. And for the static part, in the morning every day maybe 1 hour, 1.5 hour, and the weekdays I'd cover the static portion. And for if you are coming fresh from college, and if you are appearing maybe 1 year or 2 year down the line, I think optional you need not worry. Just you have to revise at the time of maybe 4 or 5 years before your mains examination. You just need to revise the optional. You need not worry about that, but you need to practice optional answer writing, optional answer writing, as well as the prelims, as well as the general studies answer writing. For the current affairs, I think I have totally different experience. As I described earlier, I had never studied newspaper. So I used to follow one Insights IS. They daily they put up current affairs. They pull up from different sources, and they summarize that. Then I used to watch one video from Byju's in YouTube. So these two daily and one monthly, I used to refer to Rao's. I think they released Focus magazine, if I'm not wrong. So I had two daily sources, one monthly sources, and one yearly sources. So these was my 4 current affairs. I have never made notes out of them. So making notes will help, but if you are diversifying your sources for daily and monthly and yearly, you need not make notes for current affairs. Before, maybe 5 years before, the answer writing for mains would be in the phrases type. You need to write like prose, and you need not write in kind of points form. So for those, you need to have comprehension kind of writing ability. But now it has been observed that most of the people write answer in point wise. You need only pointers to write answer. You need not have that kind of expression ability to express yourself in the answer. Maybe for essay you need that expression ability, but for all the other GS papers, you need, if you write in points wise, I think most of them write in point wise and paragraph wise. For that, you do not need that much of expressive comprehension ability. That's why I thought that leaving newspaper and focusing on the online sources which only state facts and the debates around it would help me, and it helped me.
Thank you so much, sir. As we come to the end of the session, we would like to thank all the panelists for taking out time from their busy schedules and sharing their insights with us. The session was indeed very enriching, and we hope that it will be beneficial for the batch. Lastly, we would like to thank all the attendees for joining in. We hope that you all have a good day ahead. Thank you so much.
Just a small word. I've added I punched in my email ID in the chat box. So if anyone has any specific questions, feel free to send in.
Thank you so much.